Good afternoon. My name is Robert Walker, and I'm Brand Manager for RetirementHomes.com. Welcome to our October webinar. We are North America's leading online sales and marketing solutions provider, including our housing directory, our online library, and e-newsletters. We also offer, free of charge to senior living communities, the top experts in senior living every month who will share their knowledge in the fields of marketing, research, sales, and related areas in webinars such as the one you're about to hear. This month we present Colin Milner, CEO of the International Council on Active Aging. Colin's presentation, How to Use Current Senior Living Trends to Boost Occupancy, will show us how we can profit off current trends in the senior living industry. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you would like your question answered, raise your hand in the toolbar to the right, type in a question, and time permitting, it will be answered during the webinar. And of course, you're also welcome to ask a question at any time during. And now, here's Colin.
Well, thank you, Robert, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share our experience and expertise with your users and viewers. So as we start this conversation, if you would mind forwarding to the next slide, we are going to look today, as was outlined in the presentation for you, at the following. Next. And that is that what we're going to do is we're going to look at 5 key trends in the field of active aging and how these are actually impacting the senior living industry and how in turn they will actually impact your occupancy rates. How you can actually profit from these trends, which of course is one of the key elements, whether you're a for-profit or a not-for-profit organization. The term profit basically means how you can benefit from these trends. And then we're going to look at, what are some of the steps that you can actually take to implement these trends. So as we move to the next slide, we will look at the following. How are you going to get the most out of this session? Well, what I'd like you to do is to become a CWO, a Chief Wander Officer. So for the next hour, I'd like you to keep your mind open just like this box in front of you. Instead of being, many times we hear presenters and presentations and we go, I knew that, or what have you. I'd like you to keep your mind open to the possibilities, because it is the possibilities that will drive change and move us forward. So moving forward to the next slide, I would like you to keep this in mind. Each and every one of you has a different position. How does this information actually apply to your position? I'm coming at it from the 30,000-foot level. Many of you need to now bring it down to your level at the ground level, whether you're the owner, manager, marketer, program director, whatever your position may be. How do you turn these ideas into reality? So with that said, what we will do is on the next slide, you will notice that we are going to start the journey with a recent quote from the United Nations report that just came out called Aging in the 21st Century, a celebration and a challenge for 2012. Now, as we can read from that quote, if we can just go back, yes, while the trends of aging societies is a cause for celebration, and it is a cause for celebration, it is one of the most exciting things that has happened over pretty well all of our lifetimes is the longevity revolution. It is also actually presenting huge challenges, and these challenges are actually being visualized on a global scale. And these challenges require us to deliver completely different new approaches to healthcare, retirement living, living arrangements, and intergenerational relationships. What was the past strategies are just that. They're in the past. And what we're going to look at today is what is actually moving forward as the new models to address the challenges of population aging and also the opportunities that it brings with us. So as we look at the next slide, you will see that the #1 trend is just that, shifting models. So what is the current model of population aging, and in many cases, senior living? And that is, or at least the perception of senior living, and that is that there's an accumulation effect of population health happening around population aging. And that is that since the 1900s, when on average we lived to 47 years of age, we have now added an additional 30 years. And the way an accumulation effect happens is that one thing adds to the next and to the next, and then it becomes exponential and has a profound impact. So we've added 47 years to life. Now we have the baby boomers coming into this area of life, and there's 77 million plus baby boomers. So we have 47 years of life that we have added. We're now 77 million people. With that, 80% of the population have at least one chronic health condition, if not more, by the age of 65. And of course, that is accounting for well over 60% of the nation's healthcare costs. So as you can see, this is our challenge on a global level. This is just one of many challenges around population aging, but for the conversation today, this is the key challenge, and this is what is also driving our medical system. But the challenge for this is the following, and that is, it is a model that is unsustainable, and that is why the debate today around the presidential elections, and to be frank, on a global level, I just came back from addressing the ministers of sport for the EU in Cyprus, and this was top of mind as far as the conversation goes, and that is that the current healthcare model is for dealing with, in many instances, acute issues or singular issues, and is not prepared for the aging population. Thus, we see dollar signs, and we also see reports like this from Dr. John Rowe, the committee chair for the Institute of the Medicine of the National Academies. And it basically, to paraphrase it, we're in deep trouble unless we change. We're facing an impending crisis because of the complex health issues are outpacing our skills and people, and that we need to adjust to new models for delivering health care. And that is also having a profound impact on the model that we have moving forward for senior living. Now, what is this new model, you may be asking? Well, since the turn of the 1996, 1997, there's been a proliferation of research out there that has shown that we have more human potential than ever thought before as we have got older. As a matter of fact, this market has 47 times more wealth than the younger population, which, by the way, the youth market has $3,000 in their bank accounts. So that's not saying a whole lot. However, most marketers tend to still focus on this market, as we know. But this is creating more options, which is creating more opportunities for solutions. And it really is solutions we are looking for. So as you can see as we move forward, that one of these solutions is the active aging model, which not only addresses the trend that has been moving forward with longevity, but now it is about remaining healthier as we live longer. So as we move to the next slide, we will notice that the new model, which, by the way, active aging is a policy framework that has been set out by the World Health Organization and the United Nations. It is not just a very nice buzzword that we want to focus on. So the new model is about action instead of reaction, actually focusing on health because that equals wealth, and focusing on lifestyle, which is where this comes in with senior living, focusing on lifestyle versus needs, not saying that we don't address needs, but when you're building bricks and mortar, what differentiates you now moving forward is the lifestyle that people are looking for. Individuals that have needs will always find you. But the question is, how do we reduce the age of people entering into the communities and offer the type of lifestyle that will actually bring people in at a younger age and keep them there healthier longer? So with that said, as we move forward, excuse me, to the next slide, the question is, what actually is active aging? And the concept of active aging can be summed up in 3 words, and that is engaged in life. Our focus is to help people remain as engaged as possible, because if you're engaged, you're probably socially engaged, you're physically engaged, you're spiritually engaged, and life is worth living. Without purpose, you tend to become disengaged. So no matter whether somebody is wealthy or not, whatever their health condition is, within the 7 dimensions of wellness, which is the foundation for active aging, we look at how can we actually help you engage your population. So as we move forward, the actual philosophy behind active aging, to the next slide, is that the business level for active aging and wellness is that the term wellness itself becomes the umbrella term that we use for the environments and the programs that you build, that you deliver, that supports an active aging lifestyle. Now, of course, on an individual level, which we will view next, you will see that the definition of wellness is quite different. Next. And that is, wellness is actually a state of being describing it. Now, this is the official version from the President's Council on Physical Activity and Fitness and Nutrition. And it basically states that you, once again, you can read the official definition, but this is all about being engaged in life. It's all about quality of life, and this is the definition. That is, wellness is a state of being describing a state of positive health in the individual and comprising biological and psychological well-being as exemplified by quality of life and sense of well-being. That's wonderful. Just remember those 3 words, engaged in life. So as we move forward to the next slide, I'm going to show you what the ICAA's model for active aging is. And that is, it all starts with purpose. And then from there, it looks at what is a person's functional level, because today age is irrelevant. You see marathon runners at the age of 100, like Fajut Singh, who celebrated his 100th birthday in Toronto running the marathon. So those of you who have CCRCs will be very familiar with serving all functional abilities from independent living all the way to palliative care. However, for an independent living community or anyone else, you will see that there are 5 levels of function: the elite athlete, the fit individual, the independent individual, which is the vast majority of the population, the frail, and the dependent. And how you address this market and how people's abilities change will all depend on what they do within the areas of wellness that we have portrayed in front of you here. Starting with the physical as the foundation, because that literally impacts your ability to get up off of a toilet, get up out of bed, and actually enjoy all of the other elements the way you would like to enjoy them. That's not to say that if you are frail or dependent that you cannot maximize your life in your lifestyle, but certainly being independent makes a huge difference. And then once you've actually looked at how you address someone depending on their functional abilities around the areas of wellness, then the ICAA model focuses on how does that impact everything from the government to states and cities to healthcare to employers to product providers, to families and individuals. And really, at the end of the day, it comes back to those three words. These are the elements that enable someone to become engaged in life, which then has a positive impact for the government, states, cities, healthcares, and your business. So as we move forward, please keep this model in mind and ask yourself, how are you shifting your model to address active aging? As we look at the other elements of this presentation, this may give you some ideas as far as how to address it if you haven't started already. And by the way, if you haven't started already, it certainly is a competitive disadvantage compared to what is occurring out in the marketplace today. So shall we move forward to the next trend, which is ramping up wellness? As you can see from this is research that is done by the International Council in Active Aging. And the next few slides, you will see multiple research studies that we have actually done. If we can go back. And what you will actually see is that over the past 20 years, we've been talking about wellness a whole lot. As a matter of fact, there's not many publications that you can pick up nowadays that don't talk about wellness. However, the action has been slow up until the last 5 years. ICAA researched their members about 2 years ago, and we found that 65% of them now have a formal wellness program. And only 46% of these programs have actually come to fruition in the last year to 5 years. So as you can see, we've been talking about it a lot, but we haven't been taking action until recently on a grand scale. So if you haven't participated in the wellness movement and the active aging initiatives, there's no time like the present, because it certainly is growing and growing exponentially. So as we look at the next slide, we will see that virtually every dimension of wellness over the last 2 years has grown. And you will see that the areas that have grown the most are the environmental area of wellness and the vocational, which is the experiential career path, learning new elements. But all 7 dimensions of wellness that we showed you just a minute ago have experienced growth. Of course, physical activity is now at 99%. It was at 98%. So there's not much room left to grow. Now it's just a matter of how those products and services are delivered, as it is with all of these elements. So moving forward, what is driving this? Well, of course, the needs of an older population are certainly driving it. Media is having an exponential impact on our expectations, but also the fact that this is a terrific business opportunity is not lost on organizations out there. The wellness market is now a $2 trillion opportunity, whether it is how you design parks as you see in front of you, or whether it is how you design senior living communities. The design element of wellness is now at the forefront. So as we move forward, we asked in our most recent survey done only a month and a half ago the question, why actually do you, senior living communities, actually implement wellness programs? Now, of course, the #1 response was to increase the life satisfaction of older adults. No great news here, because most senior living groups, whether you're for-profit or not, are mission-based. Excuse me, and mission-based life satisfaction fits right in with that. But of course, right on the heels of that is to attract new customers. 83% of your competitors are delivering this to attract new customers. But if you look at the 93%, and that is to increase life satisfaction, that is also helping you to retain your customers, which reduces the need to attract new customers, of course. And when we focus on mission base, it should come as no news then that 72% of people are doing it because it's the right thing to do. But if you look at all the other elements, it all still comes back to an ROI, and that is because current customers are demanding it. And if they're demanding it and you're providing it, it increases your occupancy rates. It retains your current customer with you. As stated on the next one, to increase retention rates, to increase or to control healthcare costs, to appeal to the children as they're coming through. And then the interesting one was to generate additional revenue. Now, every single one of these elements impacts your revenue base. But the last element to generate revenue was to generate revenue from within your wellness program. So are you opening it up to the outside to bring in revenue? Are you charging for personal training? Are you charging for nutritional products? 25% of you are looking at your wellness initiative to generate additional revenue, but all of you are looking at it to have an impact on your occupancy and on your life satisfaction for your residents. So with that said, as we move to the next slide, it is not just your residents that you are looking at impacting with your wellness initiative. You are also looking at impacting your staff, because 64% of you are now also offering employee wellness programs. And that is a very positive thing, because not only will it help impact your healthcare costs for employees, especially if you're dealing with long-term care communities and injuries for transferring residents from beds to wheelchairs to what have you, but it is also enabling your employees to become more versed in your wellness initiative, that then makes it more compelling when they are talking about it to your potential residents, thus helping to increase your occupancy because they believe in what they're promoting and selling. So as we move to the next slide, the question becomes is, what are you planning to do with wellness over the next 2 years? Well, as you can see, 69% of you are planning to add more activities and classes. And I can tell you that over the last 8 years since we have been doing this survey, this has been a consistent theme of well over 50% of you significantly adding programs each and every year. And I will show you in a moment what that actually means. 37% of you are actually increasing your budget for wellness activities. Now, 2 years ago, it was almost the same number as well, so you've seen that those folks have increased their budgets and they've kept their budgets there. This could be a new group adding to their budgets, or those existing people continuing to add to their budgets. And we're also looking at hiring new wellness staff, which a few years ago, when we were hit with the recession, that figure was actually almost at 0. So we have seen a growth with this, because the environment is certainly becoming better, not great, but better. And 16% of you are about the same as you were a couple of years ago. So with that said, now that we're actually planning on expanding our wellness programs, what are we doing with that? So if we move to the next slide, we will see that we're actually planning on incorporating these programs into all of these existing facilities that we have developed to deliver these programs. If you have a growth, you need to also grow your actual places and amenities. So many of you currently have, of course, the number one thing is multi-purpose rooms, because you have multiple opportunities, whether it is dance, Zumba, hosting social events. No need to tell you that. But what is really interesting here is the growth in the outdoor areas for physical activity, You'll see that 60% of you are delivering now outdoor areas for physical activity. That's beyond just walking trails and paths that are at 63%. You also see that 70% of you actually have salons for hair and beauty treatments, but another area that is growing with that is the spa area. So we see that not only are you growing your programs, but you have multiple places that you're delivering them. Now let's look on the next slide of actually what areas are growing to deliver these. And you'll see that things like business centers or computer rooms have grown. So have fitness rooms with fitness equipment. And libraries have also grown. But all of these areas that you see have grown because we are delivering more programs. And when we're delivering more programs, we actually need to have the spaces to deliver those programs in. Now, for the very first time, the ICAA actually asked on a survey, what are you doing as far as a standalone or detached fitness and wellness center? As you can see at the bottom of this slide, 33% of you now have a detached or standalone fitness center. I can tell you from 30 years of experience that is a significant growth, because it used to be, when I first started, that it was a small apartment. And then that apartment went to 2 apartments, to 3 apartments, and then maybe it was a small room that was created, and that room grew and grew. So we are now seeing not only are the programs going and that we have multiple places, but the places that we are now placing these programs in are really becoming a center point or a hub of many communities, as you can see, the spa services at 43%, and many of these other areas. And as we also look at the outside elements, 57% of you are building meditation gardens and gardening areas. So there's a lot of excitement going on, a lot of expansion, and growth in the programs. So what are we actually doing around that from a capital perspective? Next. Well, one of the areas that we are actually investing in, if we can go back one slide, the number one area that we're investing in from a capital investment within the wellness area is juice bars and casual cafes. People are busy. They're looking to eat and drink when they want, where they want, how they want, and also to have more social interaction within the wellness areas. We also see that the investments for the next 2 years are walking trails, meditation gardens. That should come as no surprise, given that the environmental dimension has jumped by 10% over the last 2 years. But we also see that, the spa area is looking at growing by 14%, as are the additional standalone wellness centers and fitness centers. Remember, we just said 33%? Well, now we're adding another 12% to that, which is 45%. So within the next 2 years, close to 50% of respondents to this survey, which are 544 groups just like you, will have a standalone or attached fitness and wellness center. Now, that is a significant statement for the importance of health and wellness as far as a key item to help you bring in new customers and keep your current customers happy. So as we move to the next slide, we will see that this is also, of course, impacting your capital expenditures, and we see that 53% of you will actually be investing in new development expenditures over the next 12 months. 2 years ago, that was at 51%, and as you can see, when the economy was a little bit tighter in 2009, it was down to 42%. So as we move to the next slide, we will see the impact of this is pretty straightforward: change and growth. architects, developers, builders, consultants, everybody that has anything to do with this segment needs to change and grow. So as you will, the question that you need to ask yourself is, and I apologize that I caught this after I sent this to Robert, and that is, how will or how are you addressing or embracing wellness? So on to the next slide, Robert. So that is the question. As you see all of those elements, how are you going to embrace those? How are you going to use that to actually help change perceptions of senior living, which is our next trend? And this is one group, actually, that I use when I present because it is just such a remarkable example of what can be done. Now, yes, you may not have $3.3 billion in your back pocket like this group does, but the point with this is what they are actually doing. It shows this is just one of the groups, by the way, that are building wellness cities across the country. There's another one in Henderson, Nevada called Union Village, but March Life Care Campus is building what they are calling the premier health and wellness city in the world. Now, what does this mean to you? If you just look at the way they're designing their campus, you look at the grounds, you look at the design, it's all circular. You look at their parts, it's circular or labyrinths. They are actually building that everything on this property will be health and wellness oriented, from the restaurants to the stores to the senior living community that will be on this campus, to the medical and health and wellness services. Everything will be health and wellness oriented, and I will keep repeating that theme because I think that we are becoming now an industry that is not senior living, but wellness living. We are all about how to keep people living healthier, longer, so that they can maximize all the opportunities of life that they would like to take advantage of. So as we move into another example of what is being built in senior living now, this is a community that is being built in Palm Springs. This was on the drawing boards. We did an article on them a couple of years ago. And if you were to show me this a few years ago and say this is a design for a senior living community, I may have thought that you were having a few too many drinks the night before. But one of the things that they're doing is that they're looking at building a rock climbing wall for their independent living residents right beside their skilled nursing unit. The reason, they want to show that the community is integrated and that the world of possibilities are there depending on what you do and how you do it. This is called Boom in Palm Springs. Another non-industry example, but one that I believe sets a great example for us to follow, is the California Health and Longevity Institute. They actually take a 360-degree approach to health. They look at the medical and alternative medicines, which we'll talk about in a minute, but they also look at fitness. They look at life balance. And why life balance? Well, if you look at the statistics, by the year 2020, the second leading cause of premature death, according to the World Health Organization, death and disability that is, will be depression. What are we doing about it? We have all of these different elements out there for living healthier for heart disease, but what are we doing around that? Life balance helps with that, as does proper nutrition, fitness, and the medical intervention. So this is just one example of what they're doing, but a question to ask yourself: can I now open my community to the outside and become the expert in my community for active aging, so that when older adults in the community are looking for the expertise, they will come knocking at my door? Another incentive to do that, of course, is the affordable care options that is on the table right now. So moving forward and looking beyond the California Health and Longevity Center, is this what your property starts to look like if it doesn't have this already, that you have not only meditation gardens but labyrinths so that people can connect with themselves for the spiritual end of that. Not just simply rolling out a carpet that has the labyrinth on it in a white plain room and saying this is your spiritual connection. It just doesn't work. This is a wonderful option that is available. So, you know, does this make an impact to new customers driving up to your property? Absolutely. As does this. This is a picture that I took in China. Over the last 10 years, I've been in 10 different countries. 30 different countries, and every single one of them have outdoor exercise units built in the community for their older population to actually exercise on. This one in China was intergenerational, you know, but whether it is Rimini in Italy or Portugal or Chile down the center of the strip in Santiago, this is an area that is actually beginning to grow and grow exponentially because the interest in getting people back outdoors, and not everyone actually wants to be indoors, is significant. So are you doing this as a way of serving new customers? Could you open up if you have a large property, could you open up that property to the outside community? Do the gates come down is really the mantra that I think we need to look at. So moving forward, the next slide, this is a non-industry example of what is occurring. This is a chain of health clubs called Nifty After 50. The reason I show this is that this is a model that is occurring and will continue to occur, and can you tap into this? And that was that a portion of Nifty After 50 was purchased by one of the large HMO groups, Universal American Corp. Now, why is this important? Because they took this group from 9 locations to now roughly 30 locations. They're looking at opening up some of these clubs throughout the U.S. in 40 different states for their HMO customers. Is there an opportunity, if you're a multi-location operator, to partner with groups like that to bring additional vibrancy onto your community, to make your community the hub of your external community as opposed to somewhere that people live and that's it? And I think the think tanks that we have held, and we have been holding them now for 8 years, twice a year, with the large multi-location operators, that seems to be the thought for the future, is how do I actually make my community the external hub or become a hub for the greater community at large, thus bringing in more potential customers, thus being a contributor to the community that now your senior living community is viewed in a different light than it is today. And I think that there are a few of us that can say that we don't have a challenge with the way the external community views your senior living campus, unfortunately. With that said, the question then becomes, how can you change the perceptions of senior living? And what I just mentioned to you, I think, is a start, and that is change what it means to be a senior living community itself. Now, of course, if you're going to change the perceptions of senior living, there is no greater opportunity at the same time than to help change perceptions of aging. So moving forward, here is a report that actually just came out from the World Economic Forum that looked at and addresses what some of the perceptions of aging are. We all know many of them. Burden, we've heard it before. You know, you're older, so you must be frail, independent. Excuse me. But there's also the anti-aging message out there that aging is a disease and you should, completely run in the opposite direction. That's why 60 is now the new 40, and you need to do everything that you can to become 40. The reality is 60 is 60. We can feel like we're 40 again, but we will never be 40 again. There's also the super senior or the unrealistic view of aging. And the person diving out of the plane, how many of us did that when we were young and then to do that when we're 80? It makes great media, but, to utilize that as part of your marketing or to help change perceptions of aging with those types of imagery just doesn't hit the bullseye. And then, of course, the most important one, and that is that this group feels invisible. One of the reasons why, as you can see in front of you, is that 95% of all marketing dollars are spent on adults 35 and younger. And unfortunately, this is how some of those marketing dollars are spent. This is a campaign that was done in the east coast of Canada trying to sell Slurpees or slushies. And the older you were and the more wheezed you were, the more expensive your drink. Needless to say that this campaign was dropped within 3 weeks. I'm not sure if the person kept their job or not, but this is an example of how marketers are completely detached from reality. Moving forward to the next slide, by the way, it should come as no surprise that 75% of individuals 55 and above are actually turned off by marketing, and the marketing that is targeted to them, not just general marketing, but marketing targeted to them. Now, here is an exception that did extremely well, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. If you're not, this is the Dove campaign for Real Beauty. The question that was asked by the Dove campaign was withered or wonderful. They increased their sales by 700% in the first 4 months in North America and the UK, and they did that by 600% in North America. Our challenge with this image is that this question would never have been asked if we did not live in an ageist society. So Dove played off of that fact and has actually been seen as an advocate for older adults. So I ask you to think about that word advocate as we move forward with the remainder of this section, because that really is where you were able to change how people view senior living and how you can change the way individuals view aging. So on to the next slide. We will see simple ad from Hot Wheels. No words needed. This is basically saying it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still experience the same joy and challenges trying to find your Hot Wheels under the fridge when you play with them. Whether you're young or old, same thing. I think that this was a very effective, imagery that was used to basically relay that, at any age, young or old, Hot Wheels is still the same experience. So as we move forward, the question is, how can you become an advocate for your current customer and your future customer so that they not only see you differently, but they also see senior living differently? Now, why is that important? It's important because 95% of all marketers are not paying attention, and that differentiates you in the marketplace, which then leads to an opportunity where people come to you. You increase your occupancy because you are seen to have people's interest at heart instead of just simply providing the living option. Now, when we're talking about providing options, this group, especially the silent generation and the baby boomers, are looking for options. And given the fact that they spend more of their health or more of their income on health than anything else, a lot of those options that they're seeking that we've talked about so far of what is driving the health and wellness and active aging movement are built around keeping themselves healthy longer and enjoying life as best as they can. Comes back to 3 words: quality of life, engaged in life. So to the next slide, what can we do? Well, we know that consumers are actually now taking more responsibility for their health, and Google has actually been a key driver in that, because they will take what you say or what their doctor says and actually enter it in on Google to find out whether they agree with you or not. And if they don't, they'll come back to you. But my point is that they're also looking at what are the options available globally, because they can find them on Google. It used to be you never heard what was happening in China. Excuse me. Where now I can find out within seconds. So with that in mind, if we move to the next slide, remember, excuse me, let me just take a little drink of water here. Remember that this group is looking for alternatives, and because of that, they are looking at items like complementary alternative medicines, which is what a CAM is. And why? Remember we talked about that 80+% have chronic health conditions. They're looking at these to help them fight these conditions. Excuse me, tickle in my throat. Actually, it's one of those chronic health conditions. It's actually asthma. So 65% are looking at fighting these types of conditions and addressing their overall wellness through alternative medicines. But if you look at the next slide, we'll see that it's not just alternative therapies. It's everything from the foods that we eat. Nowadays, it used to be that food used to be for eating. Nowadays, you have smart foods, wellness foods, brain foods, energy foods. You have foods that help you retain your muscle, foods that work in your brain health. If you remember, Ensure used to be only something you would have in nursing homes or in the hospital. Now it's on the shelves of Safeway. Why? Because people are looking for the options, and Ensure is one group that is providing those options. Why is this important to you? Because it just shows you what is happening outside of the senior living industry and inside, by the way, with all of these options. But it is being driven by people's desire to age well. And the media is certainly helping to drive that fact each and every day. So on to the next slide. What are some of the options that they are looking at? Well, they're looking at the anti-aging industry. Unfortunately, Botox, buttocks, anything that you can work on, they want to work in it, and they're willing to spend $291 billion to do that. But remember, at the start, I mentioned that the wellness industry is a $2 trillion industry, not $291 billion. So there's certainly opportunities in all areas, but as we look towards the next slide, we will see that there is a growth in this area. And matter of fact, Cher's song, If I Could Turn Back Time, really says what it's all about in the anti-aging area. In the U.S., it's an $80 billion business, and it's expected to continue to grow. As you can see, Cher at 43, and at 64, what we don't talk about is all the surgeries and everything else that she has had to remain looking like that. But let's look beyond the anti-aging industry as far as alternatives, because the research shows from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and National Institute on Aging that despite all of the claims that are out there, there is no magic fountain. There is no magic pill. The reality is that, if you're 60, as I mentioned, you're 60. You can certainly use items like physical activity and proper nutrition and good sleep to help you lead a more vibrant, active and engaged lifestyle, but that's about it. So as we move to the next slide, what are some of the elements and products that are being designed that are helping to change perceptions of aging, but are also helping us to remain independent longer? Well, you know, we now are using technology to do this. And one of the reasons we're using technology is that we in the U.S. have 4 million direct care workers currently serving the older population. We need another 1.6 million by the year 2020. Our challenge, we don't have enough people currently to serve the older population, whether it's geriatrician, home health aides, physical therapists, or personal trainers. So one of the solutions is technology. The other solution, of course, is to help reduce the perceptions of negativity around aging or negative perceptions around aging so that we get more people who are interested in a career in this field. So as we move to the next slide, you know, we'll see that, you know, things like gamification, the Wii was really the first one that jumped out, but now there's all kinds of games. You have games by Microsoft with their Kinect system, but you also now have gamification that is being used to manage chronic health conditions. You have games that are being designed to train staff, and these are different things that can help manage the process and change the way we view aging as well. As we move to the next few slides, as we wind down, you know, some of the other elements are we're looking at some of the products and services that are trying to meet the needs of our customers, such as self-assessment tools that you saw on the previous slide, or tools that are helping us to prepare better for the future. If there was one new business that I would get into today, it's trying to help the 50-plus audience all the way up try and figure out what's next. We do a very poor job of planning our health, our leisure, our finances, all of that for the future. So moving forward, you know, what's next for you? You know, is it age management opportunities? Is it longevity clinics? What really is it? Preparing for the future is certainly an opportunity, as this group with the Home Health International has done, because they now actually take their services into the homes to actually help residents stay healthier longer in their homes. So today, excuse me, my asthma is acting up here. It's not about age, it's about function. And it doesn't matter where you are, it can be reversed in most instances because of simple things such as lack of strength, lack of cardiovascular capacity, but your functional abilities will dictate everything from the staff that you hire to the programs that you implement to the facilities that you build. So with that said, moving to the next slide, we have about 5 slides left. I'm going to show you what our current model in society is for getting the message of physical activity out there. And I'm going to stress just one thing, and that's physical activity based on our time. And that is, you know, it's also the foundation for wellness, because if you can't move, you have a problem. You know, our current message is about a desire for weight loss, you know, lower your blood pressure, protect your bones, do all those kinds of things. But the research shows that actually, if we move to the next slide, that it's really, you know, positioning physical activity as the elixir of life, because people who are actually engaged in physical activity, focusing on quality of life, are more likely to stick with it over the course of a year than those who are not. Now, you know, we typically have the way that we portray physical activity is do this and you're going to live longer. Do this, you're going to reduce your diabetes over the next 5 years. But the research is coming out is showing that really it is about today. People aren't thinking about 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. That's why the What's Next opportunity is there. It's about what can you do for me today. Help me become more energized, less stressed, more productive, more engaged, and happier. And that is what you can do for potential residents coming in with your wellness initiative that can change your life and increase your occupancy rate, helping them to address their challenges today. So what alternatives can you provide your customer beyond what we have talked about that can help them see themselves in your community today? Not 2 years from now, not 5 years from now, when they think they may have a need, but today because it is a lifestyle choice. So today, as I mentioned at the start, we've looked at just 5 of a multitude of trends in active aging that are having an impact and how you can profit from them. But most importantly, what are the steps that you're going to need to implement them and actually make them come alive? So with that said, I know that we only have a few minutes left, so I will turn the microphone back over to Robert and open up for any questions that may be out there.
Yes, hi Colin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So we have a couple questions here. One of them is you've discussed a number of different opportunities, everything from juice bars to meditation centers to gardens. Is there any kind of reports or surveys which have shown which of these options have the best return on investment or best bang for your buck?
You know, that's an excellent question, and you know, I can tell you that we have not really seen. We do numerous surveys. You know, whether it's staffing levels or whether it is what kind of products or services. We can tell you what are the areas that are having the greatest growth. But we haven't done anything yet on what is giving you the greatest bang for your buck. Now, with that said, the ICAA launched just over a year ago a set of benchmarks for wellness for the industry. And we will have the first set of reports coming out in January, I believe it is, that will actually address that very question. It is looking at, by putting all of these in, are you actually increasing your bottom line? By putting all of these in, are you actually retaining your residents? By putting all of these in, are you becoming more competitive? What type of results are your residents having? And it runs the whole gamut. So in January, we will have the answer for that. But I can tell you that inherently, people tend to flock to where they have a vibrant lifestyle. And check back with us in January.
Okay, and we just have another question here. You've discussed, you showed that you've been traveling to 30 countries over the course of your career over the last few years, and you mentioned that all of these different countries have outdoor active living spaces. What about communities in North America which may have climate limitations? Either they're too cold for large parts of the year or they're too hot. What do you suggest for communities in those climates?
You know, that's an absolutely fabulous question, and I'll give you an example of what a group is doing in Michigan. Now, they haven't done anything as far as turning it into an exercise area, but you have Bloomfield, Henry Ford Hospital in Bloomfield, Michigan, or Bloomington, Michigan, I forget which one. And what they have done is they've actually created an indoor arboretum and a walkway through that arboretum. So, is there an opportunity if you're building or you're building an expansion to actually build a portion of that is some form of arboretum that then you build that into, if that's an issue both during the summer and winter? Or is it that you look for other alternatives? Not every solution is going to be ideal for every location. So if that's an issue, then you turn to your residents and find out what would they like to do outdoors. And it's not just the outdoor physical activity trails that are being delivered. What I've seen in almost every single one of those countries as well is, outdoor bikes being offered for the city's residents. And we now have that in Portland, we have that in San Antonio, we have that in Washington, D.C. You know, so if you're on a big property, as an example, could you, you know, buy a set of three-wheelers and two-wheelers and four-wheelers that your residents during the appropriate time of year could actually ride around your property, given that you have an appropriate path for that.
Great idea. Thank you very much, Colin, again for that presentation. Again, that was Colin Milner with the International Council on Active Aging. This presentation will be available at our website, retirementhomes.com, as well as at youtube.com/retirementhomes. Next month, mark your calendars for Tuesday, November 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, when we host Barbara Kleger of Kleger Associates. She's a 35-year industry veteran, and she'll guide us through what senior living communities need to accomplish in strategic planning and consumer research in order to maximize their profitability. Email me at robert@retirementhomes.com to register for that. Next week, if you're going to be at Leading Age Conference in Denver, Colorado, come visit Colin and I. We'll both be at the retirementhomes.com Mamba reception and party. You can RSVP again by emailing me or by going to that link at the bottom. Thank you very much. Have a great day.